Last time we were here, however long ago that was, we were taking a look back at the prelude to importance, at a time where nothing mattered and the events that unfolded were shrugged off by history. The time before the Eternal arrived. The people we see here will take part in the events that will change everything. And as we'll come to learn, change is all about perspective. The afternoon air was humid, and it smelled of oxidating blasteel. The alleyway, as usual, was dark and unkempt.
Mr. Sully sure had an easy time setting her jaw back in place. It's almost like he used to do that for a living.
Wouldn't really surprise me. That guy does everything in there. If that steaming pile of garbage his services didn't suck ass, I'd call him a dual droid.
He doesn't prepare that himself, though. That dry paste comes from the tubes. Question is, where do the tubes come from?
My headcanon is that they come from a waste disposal facility in the mid-level somewhere.
You think we live fancy enough to eat leftovers from the pigeons?
I guess you're right.
Hey Rat, you're moving to our floor, by the way. Les Dazer's up there.
Why are you calling me Rat? We're all from the lower levels. You guys are rats too.
Yeah, but me and Luke, we're Q class. You are still R class, since you're too young to even have rights outside the building. R for Rat. You're gonna need to study a lot more than you do if you even want to imagine having an L class I see.
That was false, however. No matter how much one would study, that would not get him out of the lower levels in Platinum Earth. Degrees had become irrelevant over 400 years ago, although the false promises to the less fortunate never left. Chaos had been the sole cause for mostly anything that went on in there. Although the upper levels existed under different rules, where the order of events would never falter to benefit the wishes of the ones regarded as Class A citizens, or above. And as time often does for most, it moved forward. As it passed, some revisited past investments, others visited never-forgotten dreams. And all that while, the three remained mostly inseparable, at the same time that their beliefs grew apart. Every morning, Mordred would be awakened by Graham and Luke to go out into the streets, away from the transitory.
It's as I always tell you, Mordred. Your principles should always be your first priority. I mean, look at those who are supposed to fund our world. Their promises are always meaningless, and they find themselves completely alone, at the top of the world, fattening themselves in a meaningless life.
And still everyone down here envies their position. I envy what they get to eat, and the air they get to breathe. If you did jobs with us, you could get modded and not have to worry about that anymore.
Honestly, Didge, you're the only one I've ever seen with no hexes. Besides the sclero implant, but that's like wearing clothes.
Never needed more than that before. The rest I managed to live without so far. This son of a synth here just raw dogging the end of the world.
What's going on, Luke? You're more talkative than usual today.
Well, that's because he had a lot in his mind. Being that Luke had a way to force a corpse publicity stunt against him. And that's when the SMPD started listening into their convo. They planned out a way to set up an evac alarm, and use those old and rickety nuclear washing machines to blow up the building like an island crashing into the obsidian. And since the Yen transitories rarely correct their oversights, they'd just abandon all the orphans into the streets. But they would have to pay each one of them a fine, based on how many years they'd still have to care for them. Being that they would normally stay in the transitories until they are 21. Which would be just enough for them to leave this all behind and try to actually have a life somewhere else. However, as Mordred himself puts it,
the building is a tropostite, under a troposphere scraper. It would fall into Shire down below.
But what he's really worrying about is how easily will the SNPD find them. Look, Your payout would be bigger than any of ours. But if you're not gonna stay flat, we don't need the moisture. I don't know. I'll have to think about this. Well, you better think fast, cause I looked into it and tonight would be the perfect opportunity. Graham, you in?
So suddenly, just like that.
It's not like that ever stopped you before. Why not now to do something with your life for once?
Yeah, I'm in. It won't take long for the SNPD to find out about what we just said. We don't have time.
The SNPD is exactly what I'm afraid of. That will just drop from Q to W.
Mordred Bazakski.